my passions in life is enabling younger people, I just want to be that person I needed when I was your age. Like, if I would have had the right advice, if I would have had one mentor, if I would have had one person to make a difference in my life like that, I would be so much further away. And I'm doing good. I can't complain, but I'd be 10 times, 100 times further. And now that I'm empowered, now that I'm fully proud of who I am, now I feel unstoppable. And the only change was that accepting, So I'm curious to see what your take on that issue is, because I think it's honestly one of the biggest plagues in our community. It's that mindset, that self-worth, that, getting rid of all the fear and all the trauma, How do you process that from your side?
Well, I was fortunate the way that I grew up. When you think about like who my family is, and I know one of your keywords was legacy, and that's a big part of my life, one of my values as well. I really grew up learning to be extremely proud of who I was as a Mexicana. My father is white, and so a lot of the shame came from that part of the family, and being white and having to, because my Mexican side of the family was so big and beautiful and full of culture and so proud. I mean, when I tell you, my grandfather was so proud to be Mexican. He was a legal permanent resident for his entire life, had the opportunity to become a citizen, never did, because he always wanted to be a Mexican. He was proud of that, and he really didn't want to be a citizen of this country because he didn't agree with its government and so forth. And so, like you said, being like a light-skinned Latina, that was something that I battled with. Yeah. And because that was always used as a way to discredit me in my leadership in the Latino community. Oh, you can't be a leader in the Latino community because you're half white. Yeah. And it didn't matter how I grew up or what my values were or like how I identified as culturally or anything. It was just always used as a tool. And so, like for me, the identity thing was a little bit different, like the battle with identity was a little bit different. Now that I get older, I would say I still don't like outwardly say like I'm half white. Like that's not something that I talk about. Like I identify as a Latina, and I think that's okay. And I think everyone has the right to identify as what they believe they are and how they were raised and so forth. And so I don't really allow for other people to place those labels on me anymore. But they were hurtful growing up. Right. They were super hurtful growing up.
I bet. I imagine. And I think I think you represent, going back to the keyword legacy, right? Like you're definitely a byproduct now of a very strong foundational legacy that's been compounding for a few generations, which is amazing, incredible. It just kind of goes to show, right? Like, what happens if you woke up one day and the vast majority of other Latinos that had that type of foundational? Where would we be? Like, I mean, honestly, you can't even fathom, right? But I think, it's not the reality, but I think there's the people that will cry about it or the people that will look at it as an opportunity. And I think that was a big switch for me, right? Like, I can cry at the universe for the cards I've been dealt, or I can take it as an opportunity because I have nothing to lose, right? Only up to go. And that's became my rally cry now, especially as, I have close to 30 employees. Now I'm the one, I'm able to create opportunities, high paying opportunities, right? And I'm very intentional about it. I'm very proud about the fact that I always tell people, and, sometimes they look at me weird, and I say, like, listen, we don't think about diversity at Castro. So what does that mean? It's like, we don't think about diversity because we are diversity. Naturally. It's not even something that we think about because look at the company we're building. One of my biggest goals would be to create a foundational legacy to provide for my kids something akin of what you have, because I think it doesn't seem to have become a crutch for you. It's become an accelerant. And I think the stuff that you're able to achieve because of that foundation, it's incredible. So how does that make you feel?
I mean, exactly what you said, right? Like when you think about how blessed we are now in the positions that we are, and however we got here, we're here now. And we have these resources and we have this knowledge, and it is to be shared, and we have a responsibility to do that. Otherwise, we do become these token people, and that's not a good feeling. It's never a good feeling to be the token person. And I think a lot of it stems, like for me, obviously, like I said, I was very privileged in how I was raised and the legacy that was already laid down before I was born, to pick up that torch and carry it forward. A lot of it stems from our family. You know, you think it's specifically about the Latino family and how it has consistently been under attack. You think about especially Mexicans, right? You think about how half of this country was Mexico in the first place. Now it's United States of America. We're immigrants, illegal, undocumented. A lot of us are in mixed status families. That means some of us are undocumented, some of us are citizens. Right. We can easily be separated. People can be deported and taken away from their families after they've worked and established businesses and homes here. And what happens with that is when you open your eyes, like you said, and you realize, you know what, I can use this to share this with my community, better my community, give other people opportunity, then you're no longer just an entrepreneur, a community activist for yourself, but it's for community sustainability. And if you can create resources, any kind of resource, whether that be money, skills, education, all of that, just being a connector, somebody who can connect things. When you use that for community sustainability, everybody wins. Then everybody wins more. You win more too. It's a good business move for you.
That's why I've always been a very hardcore capitalist, because of I know what at the end of the day can do when you apply this perspective to this. Because at the end of the day, you know, I was talking about this earlier. Like, so it all comes down about money. Money doesn't buy you happiness, but it buys you flexibility, it buys you time. It enables you to find the things that you're happy. In my most proud moment was retiring my mom, working 60 hours a week, making $8 an hour. And I was like, you don't work anymore. I'm not rich, but I can afford for you not to work. But I think one of the most fascinating stories for me when I learned becoming an entrepreneur was stories of things like Uber, for example, right? Like when Uber went public, yeah, the guy became a billionaire, but the first, I think it was the first 600 employees, a lot of fucking people, became $30 million plus net worth, like over time. Obviously, most of them were white males, right? And it's just something that I became obsessed about. I said, fuck, if that happened to our community, what would happen next? Would we be able to create an impact and a change to, I think, these big existential systemic problems that exist within our communities, which is this like poppy seed syndrome, again, like where you feel like you need to drag everybody down because you have to keep it for yourself? I think so. I think it would. I think it would propagate, proliferate, create this ecosystems where like then other people would create their own businesses and kind of go from there. So it's like, that's why I've always been like really tuned into that like capitalism mentality, because in a fucked up way, I always say like the system isn't broken. It works very, very, very well. Yep. It's just not designed for you and I.
Exactly.
The system works, and we hate to say it, but it works very well. It keeps people in power. It keeps the richer. So let's just fucking barge our way into it and create our own table and systems and hope to God that we don't end up like the standard. But that's not necessarily a problem that I think it's meant for me to solve. I just want to open up the floodgates to kind of for us to have access to those problems. And then hope to God that I think our perspective, our story, our narrative, our point of views will create a better version of that. It may or may not be okay, but that's at least a problem I want us to have as a community. And that's where I say, look, listen, I'm not here to run for president. I'm not here to, to do anything other than like, can we open the door, put people at the table, watch them flourish, watch them inherit and create generational wealth? Then the second tier problems will happen, and then we'll figure out from there. I'll probably be long dead by then, right? But it's something that I'm always thinking about, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're a visionary, bro.
I'm
really
obsessive.
Appreciate. So this is the thing. So, I don't consider myself a capitalist, but I obviously live in a capitalist country.
Yeah.
Actually, a capitalism-dominated world, right? And when you start to travel internationally and you see the effects of capitalism, especially on Latin America, it gives you this like weird perspective. Like you start to see it in a different way. But I will say, I think that like it's a beautiful vision that you have, and I think we should set ourselves up so that, yeah, those problems may come down the line if we get there, but we would be able to, they would look different. Those problems would look so much different than the problems that exist right now. And I think a big part of setting ourselves up for success for something like that, right? Like, it's not only just giving people a seat at the table. Let's really put some intention into creating a culture that is more reminiscent of who we naturally are as people of color, because naturally we're community people. We know that we need each other to survive. And we all play a role in that. Like, for example, you're a capitalist and you're good at it. You're good at making money. You have this vision. And I'm really good at, community building and making sure everybody knows that they have a role and that they have a responsibility to their brother, to their sister. And so really creating that culture is where it's at. Stop thinking that they're out here by themselves, and really have a collective effort on, like, all right, let's start pushing positivity in our community. Let's start pushing not just entrepreneurship, make a lot of money, but entrepreneurship for community sustainability. And that's the culture that we need to set up for us to have those different kind of problems. We're still going to have problems. Let's say there's a lot of money going around to Latinos, but if Latinos are still thinking that they're helping their community by doing charity work, that's a problem, bro.
A problem.
Charity does not change culture. You just you take someone, you give someone a fish, or you take them, you teach them how to fish. Exactly. And it's that basic idea. Like charity, you're just giving someone a fish. Tomorrow they're going to be hungry again, and you ain't going to be there with that fish. But if you teach them how to fish and you create a system where now they can also use the water to drink. They can also, use the salt to season their food from the water. They can, like creating those things is where we should be putting our money and our effort and our resources. Because right now we're not doing that. No. The majority of these small businesses that see any kind of success, when they think about community involvement and how they're going to give back, that's a problem. Yeah. Giving back means you already left.
Yeah. It's already
we got to stay. We got to build where we are. We have to organize our own people and build structures of our own that can be sustained. Right. You know what I mean? And that's what we're lacking right now. There's no culture for that. And like you said, the system that's in place is working so perfectly that we don't even know we're doing it anymore. Right. It's just the norm.
This is the norm.
It's the norm.
I think I really think that we Latinos have this opportunity to create a new category of system, right? Because it's almost a combination of a lot of really interesting triggers, right? Like timing, like the biggest culture drivers, tastemakers right now are Latinos, right? Like we are literally one of the biggest influences on earth culturally wise now.
I always tell people, learn your history. If you learn your history, it will empower you. If you learn where you come from, especially as Latinos, we have a rich history of unbelievable skill, talent, and movements of resistance. We are not the kind of people who just lay down and let bad shit happen to us. We are always finding a way to fight back. Yeah. If you learn your history, not just of, I'm Mexican, so my Mexican history empowers me. But all over Latin America, when I tell you, once you get out of this bubble and you unplug from this matrix and you realize there's other realities, right. And that there's a whole globe beyond the United States of America, that, you realize that you're so much bigger than your challenges. You know what I mean? You're so much bigger than your challenges. And a lot of those things are man-made. Those challenges are man-made. If a man made them, then you can combat them, a man or woman, right? And it's really that, like, learn your history. It will empower you. Then you don't walk alone anymore. You walk with your ancestors. You work with walk with that legacy. There was foundation set before you, even if you did not ever meet them, even if you don't know them by name. If you learn your history, you will be able to walk with more power. Because so much of this younger generation, we're just so detached from the last generation, and that happens every generation. Yeah. There's always a generational gap. But what happens with that gap is we lose a lot of knowledge. We lose a lot of potential education, potential foundation for us to not have to build from scratch. Yeah. And we could progress a lot faster that way. So another part is talk to your OGs. Yeah. A lot of times that difference of opinion it leaves space to grow. It leaves space for you to reassess and apply the things that make sense and leave behind the things that no longer serve us.
I told you this earlier. I think we're in the midst of a Latino renaissance. You know, I think like this is a great opportunity for like Latino leaders to rise up. This is, you know, shit, I'd like to see the first Latino president, you know, come up in the next 12 years.
Come on.
Right? So it's a lot. It's a lot there, and it just gives me urgency, you know, to just like be like, yo, get your shit together. Like, this is the time. The door's open, you know, like we just have to run through it. It's our time. But to your point, mindset is like 99.9% of it. It just really fuels the fire out. Like the opportunities we have, the responsibilities that we have are so sacred, I think, to where we want to drive everything we love, everything we know, everything we hold of value in this world. You know, we can't take it for granted.
Man, when I tell you, bro, like it starts with like those people who do have those positions of power or have resources, you know, to do their education too, to really understand what the problems are, to get close to those problems, and then say, all right, I'm going to back it up like this because I see that this is the best way that I can contribute. Not just throwing money at something.
When you fast forward and you're going to achieve everything you want to achieve, I already know, because you just plow through life with that empowerment, that identity. There's no failure. You're just matter of time. So you're going to get there. You're going to achieve these things. What is that biggest thing that you want to leave for the next 1,000 Tanyas that are living their lives trying to find that person they want to mold themselves after, and they found you? What is that one thing that you want to instill? What is that, not your family's legacy, what is like Tanya's legacy that you want to leave to them?
I think that there are no great men or women in this world, only great challenges that ordinary people must take on.
Damn.
What you do is what makes you great, you know? And what you do about the conditions of your peoples is what makes you great. We have so much, and like you said, this scarcity mindset, it's a trick. It's a trick, and we gotta stop falling for the okie doke. We gotta stop. They've been using the same tactics, the exact same system for so many generations, and like you said, it runs and works like a well-oiled machine. When do we wake up? When do we say, "Oh, well, we're just playing our role in this shit. Let's be agitators. Let's be agitators," because that's a really cool role to play.
I think, you know, the closing statement I'll add, I had a conversation with this woman, Alba. She runs a flower shop at the Berwyn shops. And the way that she ended her episode was like, this is not our year, this is our century. The time is now.
I agree. The Latino Renaissance, I like that. I'm going to use that.
Let's make it a thing.
Let's make it a thing.